Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you how to fix the leg support on an X5. I got to a point where you can hear it working. The gear is doing something, but it's not really doing much. So we're going to be fixing that today. See, it's kind of stuck a little bit. I don't know if you can hear it, but we're going to remove the seat and replace that gear. So in order to remove the seat, you're going to need a T50 for 4 of these. You have to move the seat forwards and backwards to get access to them, and then you're going to need a 10 millimeter to unplug the battery so you can disconnect the airbag cable. Let me remove the seat and I'll take you over to the bench and then we'll go over from there. Just let me take the seat out. Like I said, just move it back to get access to these two. Move it forward to get access to the ones in the back. To remove the seat belt, it's back there. I'll show you in a little bit. Alright, so I went ahead and I removed these guys. So I'm gonna move it forward now to get access to the seat belt strap and to get access to the other 2 bolts. So I'm gonna go ahead and move it forward as much as I can. I think that should do, and we'll have access out here. There's just 1 bolt over here to release the seat belt, and then these guys. So let me take those off and I'll pick you up there. Alright, so went ahead and I removed those 2 screws, one from there, one from there. Now you need to remove this guy right there, which is the seat belt. And then we'll go after the battery after that so you can unplug the cable. So let me finish up removing the seat belt and then I'll pick you up at the battery. Alright, so I went ahead and I removed the seat. Just a little slit right there where it goes in. It's a smaller screw than the other 2. So I'm going to push the seat back so that it's right in the middle, so all the way up to here. And then we'll go over to the battery, unplug it, and then we can disconnect the airbag cable, and then we'll take it over to the bench so we can take a look at that gear. Alright, so I went ahead and I pushed the seat, tilted it more or less, so now I need to remove this guy. I believe you just pull on this side to disconnect it. So let me remove that, and then we'll go over and disconnect the battery. Alright, so I went ahead and I removed it. As you can see, this goes in like that, but here. So this is what we need to disconnect, is the airbag, but you don't want to remove that now unless the battery is disconnected, otherwise you'll get an airbag light when you turn the car back on. So make sure that you get your 10 millimeter, go to the back in the trunk and disconnect the battery, then come back here, pull on the little tab, the black tab right here, and then this will pop out and you can take the seat out. So let's go ahead and do that, and then I'll pick you up there. Alright, so I'm going to disconnect the battery, just doing the black terminal with my 10 millimeter. So let's disconnect that, and then we're ready to unplug that cable. Alright, just make sure you put it off to the side where it won't go back to its natural position. And just so you know, this is where it is, so it's in the rear of the car. Alright, so when I hit it, unplugged it. Like I said, you just pull this out, this bolts here. Yours will probably be attached to this right here, so just get access to it, unplug it, and now the seat is free. So let's take it over to the bench and keep working on it. You may have a little trouble taking it out because of the steering wheel, but it can be done. Alright, so follow those steps correctly. You should have the seat out. We're going after the gears that are in here. Just the motor. This is what would be the leg support. So we need to remove this thing. It's just pressed on, and then we'll have access to this. There'll be a cable in there. there'll be a couple of nuts to remove, and then we'll be able to get access to it. So let me start by doing this first, and I'll pick you back up. Alright, so when I went and removed it, as you can see, it's just in there with these guys. It's connected. It's two of these. It goes in that hole in the middle, and right there. And if yours is broken like mine, you'll be able to adjust this up and down. Obviously it's not supposed to do that. The gear in there is all messed up. I'm not sure what this is for. We need to unplug this, and we'll go after these right here, and then we'll be able to remove this. So let me do that, and then I'll pick you right up. Alright, so I went ahead and removed it. I put the nuts back so I don't lose them. They go in there and in there. I disconnect the cable. It's just a 2-prong connection. And then we'll go over to this piece of plastic, which is just connected right there. Just pry up on this and over here. It's also a good time to clean this thing, because as you can see, mine's pretty filthy. So I'm going to clean it, and then we'll keep going to get this motor out. So, but let me take this off first, like I said, and I'll pick you back up. Alright, so you should be right here now. You remove the plastic. Yours is probably filthy, just like mine, but long story short, you're going to need a T20 to go after these guys. These two are for the motor, and this is just for this assembly, which is attached to the motor, so you have to remove all that. And then you'll have to remove this, the cable, the 4-pin connector to the motor. It's got a little tab right here, so you just press on it, press down, and then pull. Can't do it with one hand, but let me do that, and then I'll pick you right up. Alright, yeah, so like I said, this is the connector. You just have to just press down like that, and then pull, and that's where it's connected. So let's go over to these guys now. So let me take those out. Alright, so not sure if this is important, but I figured I'd log it just in case. I'm going to count the amount of holes that I have here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 that I can see, so that when you put this back, you put it exactly the same, just in case. I'm not sure if it matters or not. So you can see mine is already loose. This is all one assembly, so this and the motor are all connected together. Once you remove these screws, you'll have access to the assembly, and you'll have to take it off from here. So just be prepared. It's not as easy as I'd like it to be, but that's how I did the other seat, and now I'm doing this one. So let me do that, and then I'll pick you right up, tell you what I struggled with. Alright, so I just went ahead and I tilted it back a little bit, and then this whole assembly now is free, as you can see. I'm going to try to take this out of here, but I like to note that I'd like for you to note that you could probably get away with it working on it here. I'm not exactly sure if you can, because the gear that we're replacing is actually right here. This is what we're replacing. This part is made of plastic on the original one, so we're going to replace this whole assembly, which goes right here. Once we open it, I'll show you the gear is all destroyed. So let me see what I can do here, and then I'll pick you back up. But as you can see, like I said, it's actually loose now, the whole assembly. But I'm gonna take it out just to show you, but I think I could work on it here. But I'd like to show you what you're going to do outside. So let me do that. Alright, so I did. I went ahead and I took it out. It was actually surprisingly easy. Just get this part out through here, just lift it up enough, slide it this one, and then it just slides out. Only important thing that I would like to mention is that it would be really easy on you if you make the seat as high as you can before you start doing any of this. So put the seat all the way to the upper position so that this gap is as big as you can, because if my seat would have been all the way to the bottom, you wouldn't have any room to take the seat out, and because the seat is out, you can't just do it now. It has to be plugged into the car, so you have to put it back in the car. So make sure that you have the seat in the most uppermost position so you can get this gap here to be able to remove the motor. Very important to remember. So let me go ahead and start opening the motor right here, and then I'll pick you back up. But as you can see, this is the assembly, and the gear that's messed up is right here. Alright, so you're going to need the same T20 that you used for the other screws is for these three, and then for the ones next to the motor, for these guys, they're actually a T10. So that's what you're going to need. So let me take this off. Alright, so went ahead and I removed the three and then the three smaller ones. So it should look like that. Now all we have to do is just undo these plastic, I don't know what they're called, but just have to open them up a little bit. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm not sure how this is gonna go, but because I need to pry up on these guys. Hopefully they're not too brittle and I won't break them. So let me attempt it and then I'll pick you back up. Alright, so the trick was to have a lot of these small flatheads. I ended up using 4 of them to go ahead and put in between this and the little tab right there, so that I could do like a bunch of them at the same time and open them up. And then once you do that, you'll be able to take this off, this is what's inside, as you can see. And the problem is actually this gear right here. See that? It's all broken already, which is what we're going to replace. We're going to replace that whole worm assembly with this worm assembly. This is metal, so that should last longer, I hope. So let me replace that. I think you just take it out and put it back in. So let me replace it and I'll pick you right back up. Hold on. Alright, so just as I suspected, it just comes right out. Note that there are a couple of pieces of metal right here on the side. I'm not sure if it's metal or a magnet. On both sides it has a little piece of metal. They do sell this gear, this plastic gear replacement for these, and that you could just press on. I've done it before, and I'm not sure how long it's going to last, so I decided to go with this metal replacement. So this is the part that breaks. That's the little O-ring, and just make sure you use plenty of these grease. Just put it back where it's supposed to be, and then you're ready to put it back. So let me switch over these plastic rings. I'll put them back on this one, and then I'm going to go ahead and put it back in there. So let me do that, and then I'll pick you right up. Alright, so yeah, those O-rings just came right out. Might be a good idea to add a little bit of grease before you put the rings on, because it looks like this is the part that actually rotates, so you don't want that to get too hot. And then when I took these out, they didn't have any grease in there. So I'm going to put some grease in there. I'm just going to plop it back in here, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I tried to put the gear back in, but it wouldn't go in. And what I realized is that you can actually pull the motor back. Look at that. So pull the motor back, and grab your assembly, put it back where it's supposed to go. Oops. See, you gotta be very careful with these things. So I'm gonna need 2 hands on this. Let me do this and then I'll get back to you. Yeah, you definitely need 2 hands. If it's a perfect fit, if it's exactly in there. So all you gotta do is just rotate it just a little bit so that it starts the gears on the bottom of this, and then that it grinds with the upper gear. And once you're at this point, I think you're almost home. So let me put the motor back in, just push it back in. And again, I'm gonna have to do one of these to get the motor in, because the gears are actually gonna start to grab to these teeth. And then we'll be able to put this back on, and then that should do it. So let me go ahead and put the motor back. Yeah, so it went right in, no issues. So let's put this back in and put the screws back on, and that should do it. So let me finish up. Oh, and make sure you put plenty of grease in those gears. the new one didn't come with any, so I'm gonna have to pick some of that grease out and put it on the gears so that they don't prematurely wear out. Alright, so that's the amount of grease. I plugged it right from here, and I put it both on those gears right there, on here, and here. Once it starts to rotate, it'll spread itself out, or at least that's what I'm hoping. So let's put the cap back on. So I just went ahead and I pressed it back in, everything snapped back into place. Thankfully I didn't break any of those tabs. I did on the other seat that I did, so I was a little bit more careful this time. So let's go ahead and put back the screws, and then put it back in the seat. Alright, I go in, I put all the screws back in. The screws initially were not very tight in there, so I just got him to a point where I could do it by hand, and then just a little bit snugger, and then that's it. It's all plastic, so you don't want to torque these too much, otherwise you'll strip them. So I think we're ready to put it back in the seat. So I'm going to put it back here. So let me clean some of this up, and then I'll show you once it's connected. Alright, so yeah, it went in fairly easy. I just, what I did was I put it in this way, and then I put this in, and then I grabbed this end, and then I slid it this way. Once you're in there, just make sure that these go in all the way, because on mine it was cockeyed a little bit, and I pushed it in and it went in. These two, those are important points to note, otherwise this won't be in all the way. Other thing is, remember I told you about counting these? Just make sure that you have the same amount. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have the same amount of holes here as we do here, because when you have this out, if you rotate this once and this side stays in place, this will be shorter than that one, and then they won't be the same height. So just keep a note of that. And then but you're almost there. So let me finish this up, and then I'll show you. Alright, so I went ahead and I finished up all the screws. It's not supposed to be super tight, so we just do hand tight, and then that's it. And then you're ready to put this cover back in. It's just in with these guys in there, 2 of them. So let me do that, and then I'll get started on those other parts. So let me finish that up. Oh, and very important, don't forget to connect your motor in place, because if you forget it and you put everything back, then you won't be able to do anything. So let me connect that. Alright, so I can't stress enough, make sure that you plug this motor back in, because if you put everything back and you forget to plug this in, all that would have been for nothing. You have to take the seat, or at least this part, back out. So make sure that you plug that in. Alright, so I put everything back in. It looks normal. So now all we gotta do is put this other trim part. This piece, this side goes in first, and then this side. The reason for that is because there's these wings on this thing. Let me show you. These things need to go into the other plastic. They need to go in here. So let me show you. So you need to start it like that. So start it, make sure it goes in. Don't drop anything. Let me find what fell down. Yeah, so I just tried to put it back in, and this metal piece fell out. It actually goes in here like this. So just squeeze it and then put it back in there. I think it doesn't go in the middle completely. It's a little bit further off to the side. So just keep that in mind when you're putting this. It might just go flying out. So just, like I said, guide it in there and then press it in there. So let me do that, and then I'll show you. it's easier said than done. It's not perfect, but I think I'll just have to live with it. And then on this side, you just kind of smash it, and then it snaps in place. So also make a note of this. Make sure you plug this in, otherwise you'll get some error code or something. What else? So I think that's it. Let me just put it back in the car and then test it. And just to show you again, this is the old gear. If you buy just the plastic part, you'll get the full gear. I've done it before. To get it in here, you just need a vise to press it back in. Once it snaps into these little corners here, there are 4 sides to it. Once it snaps into that, it will stay in place. Then you just replace, put it back in, so you won't be using those. This is the old one that smashed into pieces. So inside, and that's why it wasn't working. So let me put this back in, plug in the battery, and then I'll show you. Alright, so I went ahead and I plugged in the seat, and then I plugged in the battery, and as you can see here, it's working again. So it just makes a little bit of more noise, I would say, the metal gear, because it's metal to metal, whereas the other one was plastic to metal, but it's working. So key part about this is plugging in the seat and then plugging in the battery, and then move the seat forward, all the way forward. Don't forget this plastic piece, and so you can have access to plug in the seat belt in the back and the screws, and you'll be all set. So I'll recap in just a little bit. Alright, just a quick recap. So yeah, the leg support is working again. I just put the battery back in. Just a quick reminder, when you do plug in the battery, you have to move your steering wheel all the way till it locks on one side, then all the way to the other side till it locks again, and then you'll get rid of all those codes that pop up about 4x4 and whatever. As you can see, I already did that, and I set the time already, and that does it. This can be done. You can buy the plastic gear instead of replacing the whole worm assembly. You can buy just the plastic part. That's what I did with my passenger seat, because I had the same problem, but I ended up, oops, battery charge very low. Need to look at that. So yeah, you can buy just the plastic part, or you can buy the whole assembly. I did either or. We'll see how much longer it lasts. The one that I put the whole metal assembly, I think it's a little bit more whiny, but I'm sure it'll last longer than the plastic one. And other than that, it's working fine. Everything's fine, so I'm really happy with the results. The plastic one is about $10. I think the other one's about 20, maybe 30 shipped, something like that. So it depends on how much you want to spend, but it can be done. The seat itself is fairly heavy, so if you have somebody that can help you, it'll probably be easier. But yeah, I'd say it's a good 50-60 pounds for itself. So just be aware of that, and just simple tools. All right, thank you very much.